Hello, my beautifuls, and welcome back to the Millie Fox Show. This show is for the high-achieving woman who knows that this life is meant to be juicy and delicious. The one that has dedicated everything she's had, everything she has inside of her, to checking off all of the boxes on her list of what she thought she was supposed to do, and somehow she's still not feeling how she wants to feel. Maybe it's in her marriage, maybe it's in her career, maybe it's in her friendships, but she's still so dedicated to hanging on to that juice in life. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're talking about all the different things in life that take the deliciousness out and how to make the space for it to come back in, because we don't force deliciousness, we allow it. And today we're going to talk about a topic that absolutely suffocates all the juice and deliciousness out of life. And that topic is indecision. It is one of the most excruciating and painful places to be, to not know what you want, to not know the next best move in your life. And I've been there in multiple different areas of my life, but the absolute most painful one was obviously the decision to end my marriage and to leave and to move out and everything to do with that massive, massive change in life. And what I know from that experience is that it carries such a huge weight of responsibility. Deciding to end your marriage, especially when children are involved, is the heaviest decision you may ever make in your life. I know for me, it hands down was. I'm not sure that there will ever be a decision that can compare to that one. And through that decision, I've learned that I have what it takes to really make any decision. But before I made the decision, when I was wrestling with this decision for so many years, I was managing so much fear. Fear was at the helm of my life, and I was trying to manage the identity that I had, that I imagined was completely being obliterated by becoming a divorced woman. I never wanted to be a divorced woman. There's so much stigma that comes along with that. Now, this episode is actually not just about marriage. There's so many of you out there that are in a place of indecision about your next move, period. Maybe it is about your marriage. Maybe it's about a career move. Maybe it's about wanting to leave corporate, or wanting to put something of your own out into the world, and you're just in this chokehold of fear. And you're telling yourself that if you move forward with this, that there's some part of you that is a failure or will be a failure. And that is the thing that's holding you back. And the hardest part of it is waking up every single day and having to face your indecision over and over. The pit in your stomach, the question of, am I abandoning myself? Am I making the biggest mistake of my life? And feeling that twisting and turning because you live inside two possible futures inside of your head almost at every single moment, and your brain craves certainty because certainty equals safety. And so your nervous system is constantly in this toil and you cannot rest. It's absolutely exhausting. So when you are wrestling with a decision, that is why it's so painful, because your brain is constantly in this scanning mode. It's in this evaluating mode. It is imagining future scenarios. It's asking everyone else. And it's like running the computer with a million tabs open, which I'm sure that you're probably familiar with operating that way as it currently stands anyways. And it's not just that the decision is hard, it's that the process of coming to the decision is really challenging because your brain cannot rest during that process. And it's not a process that you can force. That is something I've always had trouble with, is when you hear a coach say, just decide, or a manifestation coach specifically, I just decided that's what I wanted. That used to bother me so much when people would say that, because you cannot force yourself to go all in on a decision, because you're going to be in shaky energy. You're going to be wobbly going into that decision, and that's not going to produce the result that you want. You're not going to be showing up being the woman that you want to be if you truly, at your heart of hearts, are not all in on it. And it's part of the process. The process is the becoming of the person that you need to be in order to live that life on the other side of that decision. It is so crucial, and you're not meant to be comfortable in it, because expansion, one of my coaches said this, expansion happens at your extremities. You are literally being pulled at your extremities to grow. You are being pulled into a new identity of growth. And if you can imagine yourself on some kind of medieval torture chamber stretching contraption, like, this is not comfortable. Growth is meant to be uncomfortable, because it's in the discomfort that we are forged. We become somebody who can handle and live in and have your nervous system be able to handle and be accustomed to this new reality, this new identity, right? I always bring it back to the comparison when you first learn to drive, when you have all of these different things going on and you have all of this new sensory input coming at you. And it takes time for your brain to carve the new pathways so that that can all become automatic, so that you can become, like, it's second nature for you to do those things and to be that person. And then you get to the point of having highway hypnosis, where you just you were so busy thinking of other things, you didn't even have to think about driving. And that's what it is. Your brain and your body are rewiring itself to become a new version of you, so that you can drive that new version of you without having to play pretend, without having to think so hard about what your next move should be. And this really comes through a process of values, of intentionally upgrading your skills, with your relationship with yourself, because the chances are, if you're in a loop of lack of self-trust, which is the thing that is preventing you from making that decision, right? You don't trust yourself with the responsibility that the weight of that decision holds. If you are in that place right now, it means that you need to do that upgrading work on your connection with yourself. If you are deeply connected with yourself, you know your values, you know you have your own back, you know that whatever next move you make, you're going to be able to figure it out. You're going to be able to catch yourself if you fall, put one foot in front of the other. But if you don't have that connection to yourself, that's when you're going to wobble. You need to understand what your values are. You need to know what your needs are. If you don't know what you need and you don't know how to communicate it, you're going to be treading water. You're going to be lost. You're going to be just trying to keep your head up above water in your life. And that is why your life does not look the way you want it to look, or maybe it does look from the outside the way, you thought it should look, but it doesn't feel the way you want it to feel. So we need to do that work first. We need to reconnect to ourselves, and then we need to learn those skills of being emotionally intelligent enough to understand why we're having the reactions that we're having, like resentment or a lack of confidence, we need to understand what needs are not being fulfilled, and then what courageous actions, courageous conversations need to be had so that you can meet the other person or that next version of yourself inside of you to take you to the next step, to take you to the next place that you are meant to go. If you don't know what questions to ask yourself, if you don't know how to verbalize what is going on inside of you so that the other person and you can connect instead of operating on two different radio frequencies, then you're stuck. And this is why you are in indecision, because you're sitting here replaying and playing scenarios and checklists and pros and cons lists, but you don't get clarity from rumination. You get clarity from action, and you're not taking that action because you don't know how yet. You don't know how yet because you don't have the internal skills to do it yet. And that's okay. That is all part of this process. All right? And that is what I am here for. That is the process that I've created, that I actually created this process before I entered my divorce, which was a freaking godsend because I already had that process in place to reconnect to myself, to understand what I needed, what I wanted, who I was, what was getting in the way, all of these different pieces. And I did it. I've done it. I took every single piece of experience I had, education that I had, my psychology background, my obsession with personal development, my, neuro-linguistic programming trainings, hypnotherapy, whatever you want to say, yoga, the philosophies of spirituality, all of it rolled into one. And I learned that I needed to regulate my nervous system. How do you do that? Understanding relationship dynamics, which can be a swampland. Like, how do I manage this one? How do I manage the relationship, with my narcissistic mother? How do I manage the relationship with my, siblings who have superiority complex, or my husband who is like over here and I'm over here? How do I learn healthy communication? Understanding my attachment styles, wounds, and knowing how to be in my feminine energy without performing so that we can create some kind of polarity and spark and zest between us. There's so many different pieces of it, and it feels so complicated, and we're just stuck in this like tornado of how do I don't even know, right? And then you start searching for answers from TikTok and therapists and friends, books, podcasts. I did all of those things, right? And one of my superpowers is simplifying things. And, the goal of all of this whole conversation is not to give you some answer for how do you decide today, but to encourage you to continue on your path of becoming the woman who no longer has to wonder if she's making the right choice. Only you can do that for yourself by building you, right? Your relationships, your entire outward reality is a reflection. All of those things are a mirror of your relationship with yourself. And until you start to look at that, anything else that you change on the outside is going to be temporary, or it's just going to be another thing that looks good but doesn't end up feeling the way you want it to feel. So, if you're in this season right now, I know how tough it is. It's the toughest place to be. But you're not weak because you haven't made the decision. I really want you to hear that. you are carrying one of the biggest transformations. You're undergoing one of the biggest transformations that you will ever undergo in your life. You're waking up to who you really are. That's beautiful. But the biggest thing is not about wasting time. It's about staying disconnected from yourself. Like, how long are you willing to stay disconnected from yourself? Because, the goal is to always have you to return home to. And that's what I want for you. I want you to have a process of returning home to yourself and knowing what that road looks like. Even though the questions are going to have different answers at different forks in the road. And this is my process. I've always shared, the questions are, who are you? What do you want? What's getting in the way? What do you need to do? And what to do if you get off track? That is my process. I've called it Manifest OS since its creation 6 years ago. But right now, I am applying this specifically to women who are stuck in the space of indecision in their marriages, and they really just don't want to live in that limbo, that excruciating limbo anymore. And I am putting together a beta cohort of women. We're starting in September to go through this process together of understanding what's going on with you, seeing the relationship dynamic clearly, because you have to do that. You have to learn these relationship skills as well, both for yourself and for your outward relationships. And then becoming that woman that you can trust, so that you don't have to live in this place of being pulled in two different directions at once anymore. So if you're interested in joining this cohort, I'm only opening it up to, I originally said 10, I'm now saying 15 women tops. Okay, it's a 12-week program. There's group calls and you get 3 one-on-ones with me, and I'm doing it for 50% off of what I will eventually charge for this program in the future. So if you're there, if you are resonating with this, or, even if there's another decision that you're wrestling with that is apart from the marriage decision, just DM me. If you want the marriage program, DM me the word decide. I'll send you the details about the program. If you're wanting to work one-on-one with me for another leap you're trying to make in your life, just, DM me whatever. I heard your podcast and and we'll have a conversation about it. But anybody who signs up with me in the month of August will get a 4-month payment plan. Anybody who signs up with me after that will get the 3-month payment plan for the program. So I'm here for you. We got this. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed this podcast, if you listen to any of my other podcast episodes, please subscribe. The best way to get this podcast out to more women who need it is to boost the engagement on platforms like Spotify and Apple. So if you can leave me a review, if you can give me 5 stars, if you can share it to your stories, share it privately with another woman who you know is wrestling with this, I would be so grateful that you joined the mission of helping high-achieving women return home to themselves and create the lives that they deserve, to receive everything that they've worked so hard for, and just truly live in that juicy and delicious place. So, love you so much, and hope to see you here again next Friday.